Maya wasn't laughing anymore. 30 seconds ago, she'd been spinning around the open-plan living room, arms wide, telling Daniel this was the best birthday present he'd ever given her. The exposed wooden beams, the stone fireplace, the view of the pine forest stretching endlessly in every direction. She'd called it a fairy tale. She'd used the word perfect 4 times in under a minute. Now, she was standing at the kitchen counter, holding a small piece of paper with both hands, and her face had gone the color of old milk.
Daniel dropped his duffel bag by the door. "What is it?" She didn't answer, just held the note out toward him. He crossed the kitchen and took it from her. The paper was cream-colored, slightly thick, the kind you'd find in an expensive stationery set. The handwriting was neat. Too neat. The kind of neat that takes real effort or a long, long time to practice. It read, "Welcome to Hollow Pines Cabin. We hope your stay is a comfortable one. Please observe the following house rules for your own comfort and safety. 1. Keep all curtains tightly closed after 10 p.m. 2. If you hear knocking on the bedroom window during the night, do not look. Do not open the curtain. It is not a person. 3. If the hallway speaker says, 'Good night,' you must respond by saying, 'Good night,' aloud within 5 seconds. This is important. Enjoy your stay. Your host." Daniel read it twice. Then he laughed. It was a short, slightly uncomfortable laugh, the kind that's really just a question wearing a disguise. It's a bit. It's one of those Airbnb hosts who tries to do the whole, haunted cabin experience. He set the note back on the counter. People pay extra for this stuff. Maya picked it back up. She read Rule 2 again. It is not a person. "Which part of that," she said slowly, "is supposed to be fun? The part where it's obviously fake. Daniel, the curtains thing, the knocking thing." She looked up at him. "Who writes this and means it as a joke?" "Someone who wants 5-star reviews from people who love horror." She looked around the cabin. It was undeniably beautiful. Warm Edison bulb lighting. A sheepskin rug in front of the fireplace. A bowl of actual fresh fruit on the coffee table. A smart speaker sat on a narrow shelf at the edge of the hallway. A small ring of soft blue light glowing at its base like a nightlight. Maya stared at it for a moment. "I don't like that thing," she said. "It controls the lights and the thermostat," Daniel said, already pulling food out of his bag onto the counter. "Leave it alone, and it'll leave you alone." Maya folded the note once, carefully, and slid it into the back pocket of her jeans. She didn't throw it away. Dinner helped. It usually does. They cooked pasta together.
opened a bottle of red wine Daniel had packed specifically for this trip and sat across from each other at the small dining table while the fire popped and hissed in the fireplace. Outside, the pine trees moved in the early evening wind. The sky through the front window, the windows they weren't supposed to cover until 10 p.m., turned from burnt orange to a deep, bruised purple. They talked about everything except the note. Her job, his mother's new apartment, the road trip they kept saying they'd take to the coast. The conversation had that particular quality that long-term couples fall into. Easy, half-finished sentences, private shorthand. And for a while, the cabin felt like exactly what it was supposed to feel like. Then, Maya's phone showed 9:47 p.m. She got up without saying anything, walked to the front window, and pulled the curtains shut. Daniel watched her do it. "You're actually following the rules. Better safe than sorry." "Safe from what?" She moved to the second window in the living room, closed those curtains too. "I don't know. That's kind of the point, isn't it?" He watched her disappear into the short hallway toward the bedroom. A minute later, he heard the soft drag of curtain rings on a rod. He looked at his wine glass. He looked at the speaker on the shelf. The soft blue ring was still glowing, steady, calm, listening the way those things always are. He topped up his glass and told himself it was all nothing. By 10:40, they were in the bedroom. It was a nice room. King-sized bed with a thick white duvet, a small lamp on each nightstand throwing warm amber circles across the ceiling. The curtains, heavy blackout curtains, the host had them installed in every room, were shut tight. You couldn't even see the gap where they met in the middle. Maya was propped up against the headboard, scrolling on her phone, but not really reading anything. Daniel was brushing his teeth in the attached bathroom, talking to her around the toothbrush about some podcast he'd been listening to. She wasn't really listening to him either. She was listening to the forest. This is the thing about true quiet that people from cities forget. It isn't actually quiet. It's full of noise. Wind working through branches, the distant percussion of something's wings, the low, almost subsonic groan that old wood makes when temperature drops. A cabin in the woods at 10 p.m. in October sounds like a living thing, breathing slowly, settling into itself. Maya had been cataloging those sounds for the past several minutes, filing each one under normal, moving on. Which is why, when the new sound came, she heard it immediately. It started soft, almost polite. Tap, tap, tap on the bedroom window. She lowered her phone. Tap, tap. Daniel came out of the bathroom, saw her face, and stopped. What? She pointed at the window. He listened. The tapping had stopped. The forest breathed. A branch moved somewhere. Then, boom, boom, boom. Not tapping anymore. A fist. Both of them flinched at the same moment, instinctively moving toward the center of the bed,
toward each other. 3 heavy, deliberate impacts against the glass, hard enough that the curtain shook at the bottom where it wasn't quite flush against the wall.
"That's a person," Daniel said. His voice had changed. It was flatter now, stripped of the easy confidence from dinner. "That is 100% a person messing with us." "Rule 2 says it isn't?" "Maya, the rules are a bit. Someone out there is in on it." He swung his legs off the bed. "Daniel, don't. It's a prank. Someone local, probably. Host pays them $50 to come knock on the window and freak the guests out." Boom. Boom. The second round was harder than the first. The curtain rod trembled. Maya heard, or imagined she heard, a faint creak of the wooden frame around the glass, as if something were pressing against it from outside. "Does that sound like a person to you?" she said. "Yes." But he didn't move toward the window anymore. They sat in the middle of the bed, facing the curtain. The knocking had stopped again. That was almost worse than the knocking, the stopping, because it meant something was making a decision out there in the dark. Knock. Wait. Knock again, like it was measuring something, like it was learning. "Maybe we should call the host," Maya said. "And say what? Something knocked on the window? Say something knocked on the window." Daniel reached for his phone on the nightstand. He was pulling up the Airbnb app when the knocking started again. And this time, it didn't stop. It shifted rhythm, irregular now, impatient, moving slightly, tracking from the center of the window toward the left edge, as though whatever was out there was searching for a way in, checking the seal of the curtain, testing corners. Maya grabbed Daniel's arm with both hands. He had the Airbnb conversation with the host open on screen. He was staring at it, but not typing. The room felt smaller than it had 10 minutes ago. The warm light from the nightstand lamps, which had felt cozy an hour ago, now just felt like a signal. Here. We are in here. We have light, and you can see it. "Turn off the lamp," Maya whispered. "If we turn off the lamp, turn it off." He reached over and clicked it off. She reached and killed hers. The room went dark, except for the faint glow of Daniel's phone screen. Outside, the knocking continued, slow and steady and patient. Boom. Boom. And then, from down the dark hallway, came a sound that made both of them forget the window entirely. A soft electronic chime. A pause. Then a voice, bright and unhurried, the way those voices always are, like nothing in the world could ever be wrong. "Good night." Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. From the window, boom, boom. From the hallway, the blue ring glowed patiently in the dark. 1 second passed, then 2, then 3. 4 seconds. Maya's mouth opened. The word was right there.
Simple. One syllable. The easiest word in the English language. And her throat locked around it like a door someone had bolted from the outside. Because the knocking was still happening. Because it was getting louder. Because Daniel had grabbed her wrist and was squeezing it without realizing he was doing it. And the pain was just enough to scatter every thought she had into pieces. 5 seconds. The blue ring in the hallway pulsed once. A single slow breath of light. And went dark. Silence. Not the comfortable silence from earlier. Not the forest breathing, branch creaking, fire popping silence that had felt alive and manageable. This was a different kind. The kind that arrives after a threshold gets crossed. The kind that feels less like an absence of sound and more like something holding its breath. The knocking on the window stopped. Daniel and Maya sat in the dark bedroom and did not speak for what felt like a very long time. "Did we just—" Daniel started. "Yes," Maya said. "We have to say it now. Can we just say it now? Like, can we still—" "I don't think it works like that." She knew it didn't. The note had been specific. Within 5 seconds. Not eventually. Not when you remember. Not when the knocking stops scaring you long enough to form a single word. 5 seconds had been the window, and the window had closed, and the blue ring had gone dark, and now they were sitting in a blackout curtained bedroom in the middle of a forest, and the only light in the room was a phone screen showing an unanswered message draft. Daniel stood up. "Okay," he said, in the voice people use when they're performing calm for themselves more than anyone else. "Okay, we're going to get our bags, we're going to get in the car, and we're going to drive until we find a highway. And then we're going to find a motel. And in the morning, this is going to be a story we tell at dinner parties." Maya was already off the bed. She didn't argue. She found her duffel in the dark by memory and slung it over her shoulder. Daniel had his shoes on. He still had his phone in his hand, the screen still glowing. He was reaching for the bedroom door handle when every single light in the cabin came on at once. Not gradually. Not the way lights flicker back after a power surge, tentative and strobing. All of them, simultaneously. Every lamp in the bedroom, the hallway fixture, the kitchen overheads, the pendant light above the dining table. Every bulb in the entire building fired up at the exact same moment. And the sudden shock of it after total darkness was almost violent. Maya made a sound she didn't plan to make. Daniel stepped backward and hit the edge of the bed. They stood there, blinking, eyes watering. Then, every light cut out again. Darkness, complete and total. Then, all on again. Then off. The cabin pulsed like a heartbeat. On, off, on, off. 4 times in quick succession, each cycle exactly the same length, like something was operating it deliberately, like someone was sending a message in a language they hadn't learned yet. Then everything stopped. All lights off. Permanent. In the ringing silence that followed, Both of their phones buzzed at exactly the same moment.
I just saw you violated Rule 3 on my live cameras. I am so sorry, but I can no longer protect you from what is inside the cabin with you now. Please do not turn on any lights. Please do not make any noise. I am calling for help. I am so sorry. Maya read it once. She read it again. She handed the phone to Daniel without saying anything, because there were no words that would have added anything useful. He read it. She watched his face. Then, from the kitchen, they heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, unhurried. The particular sound of weight on old hardwood. A low, dense creak with each step. The kind of footstep that belongs to something large and patient, and entirely unconcerned about being heard. Not sneaking, not washing, walking toward the hallway.
Daniel grabbed Maya's hand and pulled her toward the bedroom door. She pulled back. "It's coming from the hallway," she whispered. "We can't go out there. We can't stay in here." "The window," she said. He looked at the window. The blackout curtains hung perfectly still. Whatever had been knocking 20 minutes ago was gone, or at least quiet. The window was their only other exit. The footsteps reached the hallway. They could hear it clearly now. The narrow corridor between the kitchen and the bedroom was maybe 15 feet long, and each step was slow, deliberate, the pace of something that wasn't worried about the distance. A low sound accompanied each footfall, not quite breathing, not quite anything Maya had a word for. A displacement of air, maybe, like a very large thing moving through a very small space. Daniel was already at the window. He pushed the curtain aside. Maya grabbed his arm. He shook her off and looked out into the dark. Nothing. Just the pine trees, silver gray in the moonlight, standing motionless in the cold air.
He unlatched the window and pushed it open. Night air flooded in, sharp and cold, and smelling like pine sap, and something earthier underneath, like wet soil after a freeze. Maya was at his shoulder. He went out first, hands on the sill, dropping the 4 feet to the ground below, and reached up for her. She was halfway through the window when she heard the bedroom door handle move. Not turn, not open, just the specific metal sound of a handle being touched from the other side. Tested. The way you'd check a door to see if it was locked before you decided what to do next. Maya dropped. Daniel caught her, or most of her, and they hit the cold ground together, and neither of them said a word. They ran. The forest came up fast around them, dark, close, the trees pressing in from both sides of what may have been a path, or may have just been a gap. Their footsteps on the pine needle ground were soft, muffled. Behind them, the cabin sat in complete darkness, all its windows black, except for the bedroom window they'd just come through, which glowed faintly with the ambient light of their abandoned phone screens.
They ran until the cabin disappeared behind the trees. Then they stopped, breathing hard, and Maya turned and looked back. The cabin was dark, but the bedroom window, their bedroom window, was no longer open. It was closed, and the blackout curtain had been pulled shut from the inside. They found the car. They drove. Neither of them spoke for the first 20 minutes. Maya kept her phone in her lap, watching the Airbnb app. No new messages from the host. The last one sat there, unanswered, with its terrible apology and its instructions she hadn't followed. Please do not make any noise. They hadn't exactly been quiet. An hour outside the forest, Daniel pulled into a gas station. Fluorescent lights, a bored attendant behind glass, 2 other cars at the pumps. The absolute ordinary comfort of a place designed for strangers passing through. Maya had never been happier to see a gas station in her life. She looked back down at her phone. A new message had come through in the Airbnb thread while she'd been watching the road. From the host account, sent 11 minutes ago, when they'd still been deep in the trees. She stared at it for a long time before she read it to Daniel.
I need you to understand something. The rules were not meant to scare you. They were meant to establish presence. It has lived in that cabin for a very long time, longer than the cabin. It does not want to be seen, does not want to be acknowledged, does not want anything from you at all, as long as you follow the rules. The curtains keep it from knowing you can see out. The window rule keeps you from looking directly at it. The speaker rule is the most important. It does not understand technology. It does not know what the speaker is. What it knows is that every night, something in that hallway says goodnight. And every night, someone in the bedroom says goodnight back. And it understands this as a ritual, as an agreement, as 2 things acknowledging each other across a threshold and choosing not to cross it. When the ritual breaks, the agreement breaks. I should have been clearer. I should have put it in larger print. You are safe now. Once it has entered a room, it does not follow. That is the only mercy I can offer you. Please do not leave a review.
Daniel read the message over her shoulder. Then he straightened up and stared at the windshield. "Don't leave a review," he said quietly, like he needed to hear how it sounded out loud. Maya was still staring at her phone, specifically at the last paragraph, the one that was supposed to be reassuring. She read it again. Once it has entered a room, it does not follow. She thought about the bedroom door handle,
way it had moved from the other side. The brief, almost gentle sound of something checking whether the door was locked. She thought about how they'd gone out the window before the door opened. She thought about how they'd run through the dark forest for a mile, breathing hard, snapping twigs, making every possible kind of noise a person can make when they're terrified. She thought about the thing that didn't follow. Except they'd been running in the dark, and they'd found the car without any real difficulty, even though the path had been unclear, even though Daniel's phone flashlight had died at the tree line, even though she had absolutely no memory of navigating, and yet had arrived at exactly the right place.
She thought about the note. It does not want to be seen, does not want to be acknowledged, does not want anything from you at all. It does not follow. She looked at Daniel. He was reading the message again, his jaw tight. "Daniel," she said carefully, "how did we find the car so fast?" He looked up. "What?" "In the dark. How did we find the car? I wasn't leading. I thought you were leading." He opened his mouth. He closed it. She watched something move through his expression. Not fear exactly, but the particular feeling that arrives in the moment before fear, when your brain is assembling information it already has into a shape it doesn't want to recognize. The gas station hummed around them. Lights buzzed overhead. The attendant scrolled his phone behind the glass. Neither of them looked in the back seat. Neither of them wanted to know.